G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Off Ukraine War Update for the 5th of March 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, and as the war continues, first off we start with a look around the Ukraine map with a strike on Sumy, conflict in the northern buffer zone, now strikes on Kharkiv, which is one of Russia's favourite targets. It's a logistics hub supplying primarily the northern frontier. However, despite both sides, it appears that, again, no progress for the Russians in the north. As we go to the Lyman area, there is little to report here as well. There is activity, but what gains are insignificant. Only a little bit here. They have failed to break the Ukrainian lines, but they are wearing them down. Now, as we go along the front, there is a lot of course, frozen front. Now, this can be taken as a sign Russia is finished, not defeated. Now we have, there was activity here yesterday, but there seems to be none today and no progress by either side to finish. Well, so again, there is no apparent desire. The main target, I think, right now, and the main strategy of Russia is this line. We want to flank it, destroy it, and, well, pretty much neutralize the Ukrainian military. Now, to do that, they'd have to inflict now on much heavier losses than they have. They have no choice. If they don't, within 2 to 3 months, the balance of power, which inevitably will shift. And if Russia does not shift towards a neutral position, I believe we are headed towards a showdown in Ukraine. And I'm sure, given the posture of Mr. Zelensky, seeing how devastating the attacks were on Iran right now, he is hoping that he can replicate that with the new drones. But of course, the drones are backed by volume that Zelensky can't match, and electronic warfare that he can't match, and precision strikes, which is why he's been asking for tomahawks. Don't forget, there's a lot more than just having the equipment. But of course, most people know that US equipment like tomahawks and ATACMS come with specially trained crews. They don't just roll off the truck and you press a button and go, hey, nice little Windows menu. Tap it a tap. Alright, so again we have what appears to be a very frozen front, but there is actual activity. It's just Ukraine has failed to push, and so has Russia failed to break Ukraine. But we have seen frozen before, Battle of Bakhmut, Battle of Chasiv. There's now the Battle of Ukraine-Hungary. The rest of the war will be insignificant for now, but there was a time when Battlefront Center was pushing through, breaking through here. Right after the fall of, where is it? I think down here, Novoviskia, the Russians have been pushing and gained a lot of momentum in this region. However, now the Ukrainians have hardened. They've run into the third line. The Ukrainians have been able to put more lines behind them now. They had this all prepared, these fortresses. The Russians failed to break through on the other side and go up through here to secure this, which means every week they lose momentum. They lose. It's like, imagine this is a full cup of water and it's siphoning away. Siphoning away, siphoning away, siphoning away. And when the deadline comes, you're not going to be 100%. You're not going to be 50%. You're going to be where you are now, maybe losing a little bit. Who knows how they'll draw up the borders. Russia says they won't give up an inch. Zelensky says they won't give up what Russia's captured. So what's going to happen after the June deadline? Will US strikes occur in Ukraine, or will the US walk away? I believe a lot of it hinges on Iran, US allies, and China's position. Because right now, while China remains the wild card, but as we've seen, and you cannot hide the fact that Xi is both weary, disturbed, and he cannot hide the fact that he is viciously angry right now. His best radar unit, right, the very units that, he has a lot more of them and a lot bigger, but all his early warning systems, worthless, pointless, inaccurate, can be jammed, can be targeted by missiles, and cannot see the F-35 until it's right in their face, and it doesn't get that close to be detected. If it's detected, it wanted to be detected. Like hovering there saying, hello! And then they see the drone swarm coming in, and you're going to have a bad day. Because it's not like the theoretical drone swarms that China promised Russia, not the theoretical drone swarms that Russia had hoped to unleash on Ukraine. It's not the theoretical drone swarms that Europe, especially the UK, was hoping to achieve with Ukraine, with the Turkish, with the combination of technologies from Turkey, Russia, America at their fingertips. All that junk in Ukraine, that goes to someone, right? Every tank that gets towed away, Zelensky holds an auction. UK buys some, everything, right? Every time you hear about a captured tank, you know it's going to someone. Zelensky is funding this war by selling off Russian assets. They have not turned around and used anything captured. Now, there's always talk about showing off the captured tanks and saying, but any time they've put a captured tank on the battlefield, Russia's destroyed it. So that's why you haven't seen any or heard of any. They're going up for auction. It's much better, bigger benefit. One captured T-90 would probably get at least 2 Polish crabs. Though, right now, that's what they really need. Right? Tanks, and artillery. So, right now, the biggest vulnerability, Russia's air defenses unable to keep up and hold back. Now, we'll get to the rest of the front, and then we'll go through the changes in technology and what is happening across the political and economic sphere behind the scenes, because that, more than anything, will affect it. Everybody sees Iran. 24/7, you're going to hear about Iran. Iran is, what's to say? America could hit Iran hard. Iran's not going to capitulate until it gets to about the fourth or fifth leader. Once the hardliners are gone, right, we're already starting to see a shift in Iran. Okay, either army units are declaring neutrality, failing to pour out of barracks, and those without leaders, particularly in the south, and the closer you get to the Iraqi border, they're not willing to do anything. They don't want to fight the Kurds. They don't want to fight the Iraqis. And they're worried that Iraq and the Kurds will bring with them US Special Forces. And there's also many Iranian leaders who have fled already to Russia, or at least to Azerbaijan. So, out of the 48 killed, right, most fell in the first hour. Now, over the last few days, a few more have been added to that list. But right now, you have very little IRGC leadership left, and those who are being hunted. They're not masters of their domain anymore. So, Ukraine is looking at Iran and going, oh my God, why aren't we in Moscow doing this? Russian air defense, 10 times the size of Iran's, at least, is not backed by cheap Chinese garbage. Russia has been already, what Russia had is right now, as we speak, the Russians are replacing everything that was Chinese. They're looking to upgrade and harden everything that used Chinese components. Right now, they're digging deep into the stockpiles of Korean and their own technologies, right? Don't forget, a lot of Korean chips are made in North Korea, and those chips are still pouring out of those factories and heading into Russia. China is fuming that it did not secure a trade agreement with North Korea, but they hate each other so much, right? And America missed a grand opportunity in North Korea. Kim Il-jung missed a grand opportunity. Russia's missed a grand opportunity. This window is closing. I think let's use the Iran situation as a timeline. As Iran gets closer to the fifth week, which is the end of Trump's war powers, in which he has to get extensions and permissions and seek congressional vote for a continuance of activity. We will see. But let's say 5 weeks. Russia has 5 weeks. And then what? March, April, May. Brings us close to the June deadline. That June deadline is a sort, right? What can US do? Pour in drones. Anything else, right? Drones and missiles. Not long-range missiles, not long-range drones. Drones and missiles. If Ukraine concentrated on the front, brought Russia to the halt, that's it. Russia has to either retaliate with the Omsk, right? Russia has to risk more troops. The Duma would be looking at the economic cost, the risk of if an escalation, they risk losing hundreds of ships. They see now that ships are still vulnerable to submarines with the sinking of the bombs. They've got no air defense that will halt a US swarm attack by F-35s. Any threat from the ground, every F-35 within 100 kilometres of that threat knows where that threat is. And if they can't hit it, one of the others will. That's why they operate in packs. It is a pack wolf tactic. It's like, and I think it is like Hellcats in World War II. Once the pilots got used to situational awareness and were able to swarm a carrier, it was sunk. Swarm any ship. The Japanese couldn't stop them. Same thing again. Right? Now, I think it won't be F-35s. I think it'll be another 30 to 50 F-15s. And the situation will shift. And I think it has to shift with the balance of power, the delicate balance of power, to not risk a widening escalation. Hard to know without what the diplomatic front is, but within I think it's within 2 weeks we should see a new meeting. And by then, you can imagine, Ukraine has gone over every news report, every downlink from its connections with the French, Germans, and British, and whatever they're still getting from America, which I don't know if it's anything, but I'm sure it's something. Zelensky wouldn't go begging yet. He's probably at least asked for tomahawks. But right now, drones would be on his mind, should be on his mind first. Right? Getting not just the range, but the anti-jamming, which is more important right now. Getting a pickup truck or two, each one carrying a drone, out to at least with 100 kilometers on the front is going to be easy. Though Russia can see, it's whether or not they can respond. And of these drones, as you see, Ukraine is able to still launch enough of them, despite Russia's attacks on infrastructure. And there haven't been that. There are attacks. We have Polva, as I said earlier, Kharkiv, Dnipro. Got strikes down here, strikes down here, strikes at down in Odessa, strikes down here where they launch boat drones. They also take deliveries here as well of weapons from smaller ships. They just basically go doink. Why not overland? Volume. Right. So here we have, right, we have a concentration of attacks here. This is, so again, to stop the Ukrainian offensive, to break their supply lines. Clearly, Russia is trying to go zoink here and zoink here. Once they... Now, that's it for the front. You know, the Ukrainians have lashed out. They're using drones. They're getting some through Russian air defenses. We will see over the next 2 to 3 weeks how effective the 9K 333 is. This is a replacement for the shoulder-launched. Now, the official NATO designation is SA-29. The Gizmo, in Russian the Verba. This is a replacement for the Igla. Igla been in service for a while. This is 3 sensors. This apparently can engage various types of threats, including unmanned vehicles, cruise missiles, and low-flying targets. But already, as seen in Vietnam, right, even the shoulder-launched missiles are a threat to even the big aircraft if they're low enough and slow enough. Even fast aircraft, if they're coming towards the missile, are at risk if they cannot detect and evade. But yeah, it has a large operational range, but remember, that range is at an angle. It's not vertical, it's not horizontal. It's at an angle. Now, these have gone to Iran and, of course, the front lines. These are mostly tubes that are launched onto small vehicles. Not all, most of them are not man-portable, though it's reported as man-portable system, and is, yeah, there it is, using against drone targets. Right. All day, day and night. There's a nice little pop out before the rocket motor. It uses a gas expulsion system, and then boom, off she goes. There it has. It's got the sensor pack at the front as the Radians taking delivery on the Verba, paying it off, of course, with their holdings in Iran and transfers of holdings in Iran and Russian banks. There's a close-up, as you can see. Got screw cap systems, so it's all just basically simple. Got the audio for the beep, 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 for the little beeps for how well you're tracking. As the little motor, it's hard to think that such a small little rocket pack is so powerful, but yet it is. And so the power of this warhead is a 70 millimeter, so most aircraft are vulnerable. Some more larger aircraft will only take damage. So it's primarily small aircraft this is aimed at. And of course, cruise missiles and drones fall into that range. And as you see, they rack them up. Now, target engagement, yeah, minimum of 500 meters, up to 6 kilometers. But altitude range from 10 to 3.5. So combat aircraft can be at risk. Strike aircraft at risk. But large bombers generally not at risk. Alright, this is where the vehicles, right, this is where the threat really comes in. You can see is the small vehicle mounts that Russia can mount. These are the new Russian armored vehicles. They carry a range of not detection systems, communication systems to hook into the Russian communications network and receive threat data. And it has a all-weather, as you see, a sensor pack, right? It's got the tracking, so it can extend the range of detection and provide a gap filler for anti-drone defenses. This is where Russia, and this is what Ukraine is doing with its sports utilities, the ATVs. They're putting tows and other things on the back of them. They go twin launch for tracking anything other than and a cruise missile or a large drone or even a small aircraft. You probably want to fire at least two. Yeah, the cap. Yeah, the cap's blown, removed before you fire. And yeah, that's all there is. They're probably going to put them on boats, but they're going to put them as much as they can out there of these systems. They're going to put as much as they can out there. As you see the file photo there, anti-curve gunner. These man portables, they're going to put as much of them out there, but remember, these saw service in Syria and did not make a difference. They did stop drones, they stopped the insurgents, but again, a air defense against sophisticated aircraft like the F-35, they did not perform in Syria. So this is just a stopgap measure. Cope and seed. It is not going to make a difference for if large American aircraft, either in volume or something like a B-52 gets involved, then you're going to have to worry that this is a threat only to the drones. And we'll see what happens. If Russia does field enough of them and is able to shoot down more Ukrainian drones, again, that will only keep Ukraine from damaging the Russian economy, but it won't stop Ukraine in Ukraine. Headline a little bit misleading. You always have to read parts of the story. Basically, Joe Biden did send a lot of US stock weapons to Ukraine. A lot of them were destroyed. US stockpiles, however, were not immediately refreshed. Now, Trump is refreshing and has made sure that anything that's used now will be replaced. Viktor Orban has issued a scathing letter demanding Zelensky change Ukraine's policy. Now, Zelensky still, state of peace talks. There's just Viktor Orban has said little man is a little man, and that he's going to block any package to the little man. And I don't blame him. Right? His actions have harmed Hungary. He's demanded that Hungary turn around and go without energy, go without money, without schools and health care and everything else, to give it all to Ukraine. Billions of dollars that Ukraine has wasted, while Hungary cannot afford to give. Right? They're already in debt. They can't afford to give. Right? They have to cut services as it is to try and reduce their debts. Right? But little man does not care. He only cares about himself. Just like every other Ukrainian supporter. Right? They don't like me because I won't put Ukraine first. Right? Won't put anybody else above my needs. No, you're not a good Christian. You're not this, you're not that. Yeah. None of you are good Christians. Right? Supporting abortion. Bang, you're off to hell. So, yeah, don't tell me what a good Christian is. Well, you're wearing an abortion t-shirt. Now, has Russian troops achieved anything? Yes, they have. They have inflicted a few thousand losses on Ukraine. They've damaged parts of the Ukraine military across multiple points of engagement, multiple vehicles, stopped some UAVs, but not enough. But still, more than well, probably more to come. There's going to be war of words is going to continue. Okay, Ukraine's drone war is going to continue. Some days they're going to lose more than others, but if the Russians increase, right, slow down the Ukrainian drone attacks, that probably is enough to help freeze the front, to bring Ukraine war to an end. Because if Zelensky doesn't give up land, America's going to give up on Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine has no choice. If they don't, they do not realize that they are not the center of the universe. Okay, this whole oppression narrative of the left has given buoyancy to Ukraine. But as soon as the left get bored or have a new boo-hoo, right, or want to go back to their, because it's all to the left, it's just all a game, right? It's all a game for power, whatever they can grab for themselves. I don't care about anything. Everything is just a performance. They just want to hate something or someone. To blame someone for what, to lash out, to force you, to fund them, to make them shut up. They're bullies and blackmailers. Now the US has finally made a decision on Berlin. Now they were trying to get the Russians to sell the shares and business completely to Germany. But of course, Germany still needs the oil, and it's and without oil from the Middle East, it's either Russia. There's not enough oil elsewhere. Right? North Sea would take years. And right now, I think the only thing they really got going in the North Sea is a few gas rigs. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. I'm not going to look it up right now. I don't think it's important. I think right now the important thing is that Germany realizes that it cannot produce the tanks it needs. It cannot. That for years have failed to repair tanks, failed to keep their tank army upgraded and updated. They've lost the momentum on tank production to Poland, and now they're fuming. Now, Rosneft, Deutschland is being now considered a separate business from Rosneft. So, Rosneft is still sanctioned. It's Rosneft. Deutschland that is in 3 refineries is not being sanctioned. They will get an exemption for roughly 13% of the EU's refining capacity. That will be continuing to keep the price of fuel from rising rapidly in Europe. Will stabilise the European economy and give Europe a chance. Now, 20% of the world's oil is currently ground to a halt. This, of course, is primarily due to Lloyd's and other insurance companies declaring that they cannot cover and will not cover the ships currently in the straits, passing through the Straits of Hormuz. The threat is too great. They are in a war zone. And right now, the US has been able to escort a few ships out. But they can't keep doing that either. So right now, the world is rebalancing to turn a blind eye to the hundreds of Russian ships to fill that gap. But India has taken delivery from Venezuela. China is taking deliveries from its multitude of holdings across the world, including, I think, Nigeria. So what's happening is the Middle East is starting to see an oil decline and nobody else. So of course, Turkey's neutrality, or appeared neutrality towards Iran, has been threatened with an Iranian missile. Within hours, it appears that Turkey has softened its stance on Israel and its strikes in Lebanon. We all know that Turkey wanted to go into Syria, take over Syria. The US stopped them there. They all wanted that. Everybody knew Turkey was trying to see northern Iraq and failed there, right? And now with Turkey's failures in Cyprus, we're hoping the Iranians would drive the British out, and then with Lebanon, hoping the French peacekeepers there would be driven out. Turkey increasingly is not having a good day. And Saudi Arabia, for the first time, appears to be is now engaged in a direct confrontation with Iran, which hasn't happened since the Crusades, before the Crusades, when, they've had minor conflicts, I think, but only usually through proxies like Yemen and Iraq and, with the fall of Syria. And all the other countries don't mean much. Now, of course, as oil in North Africa is coming to a halt, of course, but it's still probably got time before the volume's too low. Everybody will shift to other oil. It's inevitable. Now, I think I missed this earlier, but it's now impossible to ignore that Ukraine is pissed, not just at Hungary, not just at Slovakia. They are pissed at Poland. They are pissed at everybody. They're pissed at Spain. They're pissed at they're angry at America. There is no hiding Zelensky's contempt for France, Germany, and Britain, that they have failed to deliver adequate and timely deliveries on weapons. He has complained constantly over the last 6 months, but somewhere along the way I missed this. He said that Belgium, and isn't the only one, right, there were 30 F-16s that were pledged to Ukraine in 2024. They haven't been delivered. There were weapon shipments that have neither been delivered. Now, the only country who's consistently been able to deliver was the US. And Zelensky's, of course, been an ungrateful, realizing that he is not the center of the universe, that money does not grow on trees, that people don't work for him, that he is not entitled to unlimited support for 100 years. Keir Starmer's stupid pledge, which has come now under fire for being impossible, right? Basically enslaving the entire UK to support Zelensky in office in perpetuity, effectively, as an unelected leader. As long as the declaration of war does not end in Ukraine, Zelensky will not step down, and Russia can freeze the front, and Zelensky will say, we'll just sit here in a state of perpetual war, just like North and South Korea. Then what? It's an absolute stupid pledge. But that's what Ukrainian supporters do. They don't think, right? They only react. They only want something to feel. They only want something to care about, something to blame. Why? Because they've overconsumed everything. They've done they've partied until they've dropped. They've drunk until they've dropped. They've fornicated until they're dropped. And now they can't feel anything. Overstimulated, They cannot appreciate a good book or any book. They can't appreciate life. They just sit there listening to loud music because it's actually not the music they're listening to, it's the pain in their ears that they're feeling. You could tell a moron, they turn the volume up. However, the fact that they weren't delivered has not made a difference in the war. Now, Belgium did not actually, when they pledged these weapons, they didn't actually say immediately. They were actually waiting on the deliveries of F-35s and that they were phasing out the F-16s. But apparently, there's also stories that say Ukraine failed to provide adequate pilots for these aircraft, and that the pilots they had sent had failed. And that also Belgium was not going to send aircraft after the crashes. So there's a bit of conflict here, whether or not Zelensky actually just has any awareness of what's really going on, or he's trying to cope and basically ignore what's going on because he thinks, I'll just keep throwing stuff at Russia and hoping the Americans or someone else will bail him out so that he can take all the credit, because his army of loyal supporters are not going to ever tell the truth, right? The victory in Ukraine isn't Ukrainians, it's British drones, but Britain will never admit to those drones because they want to glaze, because, hey, we're going to put someone else above us. No! Tell the truth is all that matters. Not your stupid ideologies. They take selected passages of the Bible and make them absolutes. They're not true Christians. It's a performance. Now, whether or not these F-16s go is irrelevant. Okay? These fighters, what are they going to do? Cost more money, increase the risk of widening the conflict, and like the other F-16s, they're going to be worn down. Four have crashed or shot down. Well, at least one we know crashed. And we know that eventually, okay, I think it's an eventuality that cannot bring this war to a close within the next few months. Russia will start engaging in larger volume missile attacks, which the F-16s cannot stop. We don't know how many drones a day they can shoot down. We don't know how many drones, but it's going to cost millions per day. As you see with missile stockpiles, right? You add up the costs, millions a day, right? 5 weeks, that's billions. So you can imagine the Ukraine war, why it's so low intensity in the first place. But if it got to a high intensity war, I think it'll burn out in 3 to 4 months. But lots more will be dead. Neither Ukraine nor Russia could put the air power up there if they wanted to, but then that would create a panic in Europe. So this is the problem. If it wasn't for the Europeans always racing into other people's wars, going, we're next, we're going to prove that we're not going to be in pushover. So they escalate the wars. They escalated World War. What if Britain didn't escalate World War One? What would have happened? France would have fallen to Germany in a few weeks. Then what? Germany would have occupied it for a few years, eventually going home. There would have been no World War II. Millions would have been alive. But that doesn't, but the war profiteers, the war profiteers, that's the problem, isn't it? Until the West reconciles that issue. But politicians are cowards. The general public are manipulated and don't want to listen to other members of the general public because we're not the rich. We're not Katy Perry. We're not Taylor Swift. So while they listen to the rewarded class, right? The actors and entertainers who manipulate us are the rewarded class. They're awarded great wealth in return for their influence, to exercise influence over you, to get you to pity Ukraine, to get you to send millions in foreign aid, to get you to vote for the corruption to continue, for crooks like Nancy Pelosi, and millions turn a blind eye to everything that goes on just because they go, oh, Katy Perry said he's a nice man. Yeah. So thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please support the channel and support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.